The reason why I want to acknowledge MLK on this day is because I don't really think that it even matters from 2023 and going forward. Hear me out. I know it sounds a little bit more controversial, but I genuinely don't believe that it matters in 2023 and going forward. And let me tell you why. At the time that Martin Luther King was in existence, during the same time that Malcolm X was in existence, it was meaningful. There's people that debate, disagree, agree, and then feel differently about his impact when it came to black people. Some people think that it was necessary in order for us to bridge the gap between white people, black people, and all people in between, in order to forward the civil rights movement, because black people wanted the option to do what they wanted to do, which is when you have, integration in schools, being able to go to each other's restaurants, and so on and so forth, right? And then there's people that disagree and they say, well, Martin Luther King led black people into a burning house because we never should have associated ourselves with white people in the first place. I believe that Martin Luther King did a great thing because he gave you the option to do whatever it is that you wanted to do by aligning with other people strategically in order to bring light to an issue that what black people was facing at that time, right? And you can't sit here and blame your misfaults and the judgments that you make that lead to self-inflicted wounds on the decision of somebody that gave you the option to do whatever it is that you want to do. You have the option to go whatever school you want to go to. Nobody should have to make you do the thing that's in your own best interest. Nobody. But here's why it does not matter going forward, because it was meaningful at the time that he was in existence, but it doesn't matter going forward what it is that he really stood for outside of acknowledging how he's impacted us from a historical perspective. Because let's be clear, Martin Luther King was absolutely despised and hated by black people during the time that he was in existence. Forget what it is that you acknowledge now. Even today, people will try to kill his legacy. They'll try to say that he was a cheater, and they'll try to take away from the things that he did and impacted and the movement that he created on behalf of the people in general. And it wasn't just black people, it was just people in general, right? Because we want to be better versions of ourselves all the way across the board. But forget all of that. Let's remove all of that. Let's get to the nitty gritty. And again, I'm going to read the super chats as we go along. Here's the biggest thing. Now, because what you see is adjustments happening in society on a regular basis based off of the new information that you get. So let's just say hypothetically that you had slavery back in the day, right? And slavery impacted people and black people in XYZ ways. And then we abolished slavery for whatever reason, or whether you want to debate it or not, that doesn't matter. And then you have a situation where you still see people oppressed, or you see people couldn't go into certain restaurants, and then we did away with that. Now we have integration and so on and so forth, right? The adjustments are continuously made by people in power to ensure that power remains with people in power. And the way that they're doing it today is by getting you to focus on slavery, you to focus on racism, you to focus on gay rights, you to argue and squabble over who can stand on this corner and sell crack so that they can make sure that they poison a community on their own behalf, and then they can go back and give turkeys and then face a life sentence. And then your kids start to become a part of the system, and then you continuously pass on that generational curse to the generations that come after you. They want you to focus on feminism. They want you to focus on the things that don't really matter. Let's be clear. Let's be absolutely positively clear. The issues that we face today are largely self-inflicted. The issues that we face today are largely self-inflicted. You have a decision of whether or not you want to bust down that chick. You have a decision to make on whether or not you want to focus on racism. You have a decision to make on whether or not you want to go to school or you want to stand on the corner, so on and so forth. But the way that people in power continuously control people that are in the middle class, the poor, and those that really just want them to remain in a slave culture. Because let's be clear, we need these people Not necessarily to have kids, but to make sure that they have kids so that they can remain in the slave culture. We need people to make our rivets for our cars. We need people to make sure that they on the manufacturing floor to make our trucks. We need people to put together our iPhones and mine the minerals, the earth minerals, and the rare earth minerals that go into our devices. We need people to make our computers. We need people to serve us our Starbucks. We need people to get us our burgers. We need a slave culture. So when I say, hey guys, the smart ones are focused on not necessarily just having a bunch of kids and living this middle class lifestyle. The smart ones are being more intentional when they're making decisions as to what's going to affect them 30 and 40 years from now, and then the generations that happen after them. And then you get mad at me because I won't let you be mediocre, when I actually am giving you the blueprint on how to be successful, because I don't want you to be a part of a slave culture. I say this not trying to remove the slave culture, because I know that there's always going to be a subset of people, the overwhelming majority, that still embrace being average. In reality, they're poor because there is no middle class, and people that are at the top understand that, so that they give you all of this stuff to squabble and fight over, as far as racism, feminism, men against women, colorism, all of this other type of crap, homosexuality, all of this stuff. Because we know that the more that you stay distracted with the things that don't mean anything, the more we can absorb all of the resources and money. Yeah. The more that you stay distracted on the stuff that don't mean anything, the easier it is for us to focus on the things that add the most value. See, this is not about money. It's a concentration of power. Money is a representation of that power. The bills that we spend every day aren't even worth the paper that it's printed on. But as long as we can control how you think, we'll be able to control how it is that you allocate your resources, because you so focus all of your energy on the things that don't matter. Let's be clear. You fighting over land that neither one of y'all own, and somebody else is still paying the taxes for. You're fighting with women not to improve their lives, but to hold them accountable, overwhelming majority of them that you'll never meet a day in your life. You have no impact. You have no power. You have no ability to be able to determine who's going to go to jail, who's going to stay alive, who's going to be able to have a kid, and so on and so forth. You will sit here and argue about abortion rights when the decisions have already been made as far as who it is going to be on the Supreme Court and what laws are going to be passed. You have no power whatsoever at all. You don't even know how to attain power. You don't know how to attain money. You don't know how to attain power. You don't know how to control your own household, but you will sit here and squabble. Come on, we talking about Martin Luther King, y'all. Real talk. You will sit here and argue over whether or not Martin Luther King had a side chick, instead of understanding the circumstances and the dilemma that he now afforded you to really be able to capitalize off of, and your kids is going to be suffering as a result of your decisions. I know y'all miss me live streaming, but we going to cook today. We got a lot to go over. It's MLK Day. I've cleared my schedule to make sure that I add as much value to you as possible. It is a class war. This is a power grab. This is not about how I feel. This is not about racism. This is not about feminism. This is about controlling the narrative. Listen, I had a conversation with the former mayor of Detroit, and he said, you know, Anton, people don't really even understand what's going on. I said, what's going on, Mayor? He said, do you know why Obama championed the gay rights movement and same-sex marriage? I said, what did he do? Why did he do that? He said, it's not that he necessarily cares about it. I said, well, why would he champion it, former mayor? He said, because he understood in order to keep the concentration of power within the Democratic Party and to still keep them relevant, he had to have another voter base, another demographic that they can tap into. Because the same thing that they did with black people is the same thing that they're doing with homosexual and gay rights. I said, tell me more. He said, listen, black people are the only group of people that is definitely, without a doubt, always going to overwhelmingly vote for the Democratic Party without playing both sides. He said, it don't really matter what side of the aisle you stand on. He said, what matters is that whoever it is that's seeking your vote, other communities make sure that they play both sides, because it forces them to come to the people and then give them things. They have to show themselves. They have to make sure that they spend dollars in this particular community. In order to get a vote, they have to get something out of it. And that's why they play both sides. That's why President Trump was donating to both the Democratic and the Republican Party way before he really got into politics. It's a game. It's a grab of power. You think it's about liberals and conservatives and Republican and Democrat and libertarian and all of this other type of stuff. It's not. It's not. And so what Obama did was he championed a group of people that he knew was always going to tie themselves to liberalism in order to ensure that they always had a vote. And you're not seeing the game. You think it's about what you look like. You think it's about how tall you are. You think it's about whether you're a man or a woman. And you don't even understand that it's the blue eye, brown eye experiment being played out right in front of your face right after you watch the video. So when I tell you that the legacy of Martin Luther King means nothing going forward in 2023, is because you didn't do the same thing that they didn't do in the Bible. You didn't look at the past in the Old Testament to understand why you were making different decisions in the New Testament in the first place. You're not looking at the past to understand and see how you can move forward in the future. You're just looking at the past and arguing about it. It don't mean nothing to you. And you know how I know it don't mean nothing to you? Not because you're not passionate about what you talk about. It's because your actions are irrelevant. And at the end of the day, when we get done holding women accountable, you're going to go over there and you're going to bust another chick down and you're going to make her for the streets. Now, at the end of the day, when we're talking about poisoning in the black community, you're going to go and get that pack and sell poison in your community so that you can continue to fill up the prisons so we can make sure that the for-profit prison industrial complex can continue to be great. You're going to make sure that you do every single thing that's not in your best interest, that goes against all of the things that the ancestors that came before us actually stood for, so that you can have the right to do what you're supposed to do. And when you had the option to choose for yourself, you still chose wrong. You don't even know how to vet a woman effectively, and you're going to tell us how it is that we're supposed to move as a black community. What I need you to do right now, ladies and gentlemen, I need you to go to the back to the drawing board and get your own life together. Get the beam out of your own eye before you can start to hold somebody else accountable. I don't want to hear advice from nobody that ain't got it all the way together before they start to give somebody else advice on how it is that they're supposed to move in their household. I don't want to hear nothing about the black community until you stop selling crack to your brother. I don't want to hear nothing about making money until you first start to get your life together and ensure that you become a millionaire first, and then come back and give us the game and kick open the door and give some opportunities to somebody else. I don't want to hear nobody giving me advice on how it is that I'm supposed to move in my relationship until you can first get your own motherfucking house together, get your kids right, get your chick on the same page as you, and then we can start having a conversation. But I'm tired of all of these motherfuckers wanting to participate in the conversation and they never did shit for nobody, including they self. What the fuck are we talking about? Real talk. Do something. Do something. Show up. Do something. The best way that you can help me is by helping your motherfucking self first. Because you can't do nothing for me until you stop being a liability to every single other person that actually have your best interest at heart. Come on, man. That's what Martin Luther King mean to me.